On the final episode of En Garde, celebrating the centenary of the FIE, we report from Seoul on the Asian fencing boom. We look back at the illustrious history of German fencing and celebrate one of France's most glorious musketeers. And we investigate fencing's rich Olympic story before looking forward to the next 100 years. Seoul, home to some 10 million souls, capital of Korea, and a well-established venue for some of the world's biggest sporting events. The city hosted the Asian Games in 1986, the 1988 Summer Olympics, as well as the 2002 Football World Cup. In 2013, the centenary year of the FIE, it was the turn of the SK Championships, the Grand Prix and World Cup event for the finest foilists to be found. A world-class field had gathered. One of the event's major drawcards was the return to action of a star of the 2012 London Olympics, China's Lei Sheng.
Because of our good results in the World Championships recently, and also winning gold at the Olympics, fencing is now getting a lot more attention in China.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, Lei Sheng struggled to find his best form and made an early exit from proceedings. That left the path clear for an Italian Andrea Cassara, who, despite his triumph, was appreciative of the locals' abilities.
The Olympic champion in the foil is Chinese. The Chinese, Japanese, Korean movement, the Asiatic movement in general, is a fundamental part of fencing. And the fact that other countries, such as Egypt and Venezuela, have won medals in the Olympics, well, that makes this sport a global sport, even universal.
The sun is definitely rising on Asian fencing, and although Europe's great powers haven't been totally eclipsed just yet, the sport is now truly a global phenomenon.
According to Western ideas, fencing is the traditional thrust and parry with rapier or épée. But Japan...
Asia has a revered tradition of swords and swordsmanship, but success in the sport of fencing didn't arrive for some time.
In this exhibition, they're using real swords, but only demonstrating the hits. It saves sweeping up the loser afterwards.
Now Luan Zhuzhe meets Cornelia Hanisch for the gold medal.
It wasn't until 1984, when China finally joined the Olympic movement, that Asia had a first fencing gold medal to celebrate, courtesy of Luan Zhuzhe in the women's foil.
Many athletes in different generations have worked hard to develop fencing in China. In 1984, Luan Zhuzhe won the first gold medal in fencing. I was very young then. Luan came from the same town as me, and we had the same coach, who influenced and encouraged many of us.
Wang Haibin enjoyed success of his own with silver medals in the team foil for China at Sydney 2000 and Athens 2004, and is now coaching China's latest foil sensation, Lei Sheng, although he is doing so with one eye on old world techniques.
China's fencing is still developing. It's still slightly behind some strong European teams. We're still improving the way we train our athletes and learning from the Europeans.
It's an approach which has been extremely successful, as Lei Sheng surprised many observers at London 2012 when he swept all before him and took gold in the individual foil, and in doing so, caused a sensation back home, which has helped raise fencing's profile even higher in China.
When I returned home, I was quite stressed for 3 or 4 months because I needed to go and do lots of interviews and events. I actually found it hard to cope with the situation because it was very different from my previous lifestyle. After 6 months, my life is finally back to normal. I'm learning and training again, and I've finally got used to the life I have now.
Korean fencing had to wait even longer for an Olympic role model, But in the men's foil at the Sydney 2000 Games, Kim Young-ho arrived in style.
Before, we did really well in the Asian Games, but at the Olympics, we didn't enjoy good results. However, since Kim Young-ho won the gold medal at the Sydney Olympics, lots of people have started to follow fencing.
Korea, though, has taken a different approach to their Chinese neighbors when it comes to building upon that initial success, as Kim Yi-yeon, who took gold in the women's sabre at London 2012, explains.
I'm not sure about China, but in Korea, unlike many foreign fencers who fence with their hands, we Korean fencers focus on our legs. We also practice on our speed. I think that's one of the reasons why we are here.
Our close neighbours like Japan and China have foreign coaches, and we were once like that. We had a foreign director previously. But with foreign coaches, there's a big gap you cannot close culturally, and that was a problem we couldn't fix. So, for the last 10 years, we haven't hired foreign coaches, but instead, we've developed our own techniques, physical training and characteristics, just to fit into our Korean culture. Our program is tailored for our Korean nationality.
The Korean men also triumphed in the team sabre.
It was an extraordinary performance, and what's even more remarkable, as far as I know, is the Koreans have become world class through teaching themselves. The Chinese were borrowing, strangely, from their European rivals, but the Koreans are self-made, and they've done it within a decade. It's one of the great sporting stories of all time.
That Korean success, coupled with a silver for the Japanese men in the team foil and a gold for China's women in the team épée, to go alongside Lei Sheng's individual exploits, made London 2012 a spectacularly successful Olympics for Asian fencing. In 1612, a duel took place between two of the most celebrated samurai warriors of all time. Sasaki Kojiro was a prominent and respected Japanese swordsman and was the chief weapons master of the Hosokozawa fiefdom. Intrigued by his reputation, he was challenged to a duel by the lesser-known Miyamoto Musashi. The remote island of Ganru was the venue, but at the appointed hour, Kojiro was alone. Several hours later, Musashi's boat appeared, with the 29-year-old warrior still fashioning his crude weapon from one of the oars. After insults were exchanged, Kojiro attacked Musashi with his fabled long-bladed sword, but succeeded in merely severing his rival's silk bandana. Musashi then retaliated with his even longer wooden blade and killed his opponent with a single blow to the skull. Musashi then walked away, gave up swordplay, and devoted the rest of his life to calligraphy, believing the pen to be mightier than the sword. Valentina Versali has written her name indelibly in the history of the sport. The Italian has dominated her discipline for over 2 decades. In addition to 13 World Championship titles, she has 6 Olympic golds to her name. After Olympic victories in Sydney and Athens, Versali had the chance at the Beijing 2008 Games to claim a unique achievement by becoming the first foil fencer ever to win individual titles at 3 consecutive Olympics.
I was losing by 1 point, with 18 seconds to go, but I was never scared of losing. I was aware of my inner strength.
After drawing level, Versali took the lead with seconds remaining.
I did have the courage to take the initiative. I landed a blow, and that allowed me to become Olympic champion for the 3rd time.
London 2012 was Versali's 5th Olympic Games. In more ways than one, it was a landmark moment. Her gold in the team foil was the 6th in her career, equaling the heights set by another Italian great.
By winning the team competition in London, I was able to match the record gold medal haul of Italian fencer Edoardo Mangiarotti.
From the Olympic stage to the World Championship beast, Fazzali has been ever present on the podium. 7 team and 6 individual titles have seen her name become synonymous with the sport.
Perhaps the hardest to win was the one in 2005, 4 months after the birth of my son, Pietro. He was born on the 9th of June, and on the 9th of October 2005, I went on the piste to take part in the World Championship in Leipzig. Not many people believed I could compete. Even I didn't think I could. But I went there to do my best, and I found myself winning the gold medal.
Taking time off this year for the birth of her second child, Fazzali's inspirational drive is set to continue as she targets the next Olympic Games in Rio.
You can never give up, and I'm just happy to be an example for the young kids that watch me. And it's important to be a good example, because the kids today need to count on someone in order to make their own dreams come true, in whatever realm, in a sporting field or beyond.
The story of German fencing begins with another inspirational female. Helen Mayer was very much Germany's first lady, having captured the public's imagination when she won foil gold at the age of just 17 at the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics.
She was possibly the first real sports star in the modern sense of the term. She was nicknamed Die Blonde Hay, or the Blonde Stunner, because she appeared so elegant, both on and off the fencing piste. She drew thousands of spectators to fencing academies who wanted to admire her and who then flooded into the stadiums in order to see her.
But her ongoing development was hampered by Germany's extreme political climate during that era.
She moved to the USA before the Nazis took power. And even then, it was only down to international political pressure that she was able to take part in the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin.
Hitler wanted her to come back. The pressure on her was so severe, was so terrible, that she got the second medal, she got the silver medal. I think she would have done better if that pressure would not have been on her.
Mayer was named one of the top 100 female athletes of the 20th century by the influential publication Sports Illustrated, but she never felt truly comfortable back in German society and died, aged just 43. After the war, Germany set about implementing a system to deliver sustained fencing success. The small town of Tauberbischofsheim was home to a fencing club and a coach, which were to mold German fencers such as Thomas Bach and Matthias Baer to team success at the 1976 Montreal Olympics. While Alexander Pusch became individual épée champion.
Thanks to Emil Beck, the legendary coach, Tauberbischofsheim was the epicenter of German fencing. In fact, 4 of the fencers on our team were from Tauberbischofsheim, our fencing mecca.
The Emil Beck production line of champions was in evidence again at the Seoul 88 Games, where 2 more of his pupils excelled. Arndt Schmidt in the épée, while Anna Fitschel led a German clean sweep in the women's individual foil. And the latest German superstar is Britta Heidemann, a fencer, like Mayer before her, whose fame and popularity transcend her sport. Brought up in Cologne, she is undoubtedly a superb athlete, but believes her success is due to more than this.
We often get the question of how much of fencing is psychological and how much is physical, and it's a difficult question to answer. On a world championship level, the psychological part probably takes up as much as 80%, whilst you only make a 20% physical effort. So I'm thinking, how do I deal with my opponent? What can I do? And do I have the right speed? On that type of level, only I decide how I can adapt myself to my opponent. So I think the higher the level, the more important the psychology becomes.
Heidemann demonstrated this to good effect at the Beijing 2008 Olympics, where she swept all before her to take gold in the women's individual épée. And German joy was unbounded as Benjamin Kleinbrink also took foil gold, beating Lei Xing on the way, and proved the ongoing strength and resilience of German fencing.
I started fencing late at the age of 13, to be like Zorro, to be like the Musketeers.
From German mental strength to French flair, few fencers can match Philippe Boise for the passion he has poured into his life both as a fencer and a physician, although ironically, his weapon of choice is one which can mortally wound.
Fencing, that is the épée. Foil and sabre, that's for kids. Épée is the ultimate weapon that exists throughout the world. Foil is not a weapon. It was created in France and Italy in the 18th century because they didn't want to have any deaths.
After completing his training to become a radiologist, Boise threw his considerable energy behind pursuing Olympic glory. After winning team gold at the Moscow 80 Games, he sought solo success at LA 84, where his stiffest obstacle lay in the semi-finals in the form of his friend and fiercest rival, compatriot Philippe Riboud.
With Philippe, we shared a few beers together, but on the piste, you're on the piste. There are no niceties. We don't give away presents.
Yet, despite winning a second Olympic gold medal, Boise doesn't even count the moment as a major highlight in his life.
The best thing in my life was the birth of my son Eric and my daughter Alexandra. Nothing more above that, not even in sport.
And Philippe now has to endure the considerable pain of both watching and commentating on his son.
Because my wife was there as well, and throughout the whole match, she just kept hitting me. I tried to commentate, but she kept striking me.
There was nothing.
I was happy it ended, because I was hit all match.
That pain, though, has been more than offset by Philippe's pride in witnessing Eric take team gold for France in both World and Olympic Championships. Boise Sr. still fences as well and serves as the Vice President of the French Fencing Federation. And although he sports a few war wounds, Philippe is unbeaten and unbowed.
I don't want to have pain in my shoulders. I don't want to have my Achilles tendon torn. I'd like a knee that doesn't hurt, and I'd like to move more. But I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, which is good.
Fencing has been an ever-present at the modern Olympics, from their rebirth in 1896 through to the present. It's a close relationship, and in their centenary year, the FIE are determined to nurture it.
The Olympic-like family of sportsmen and coach relate to fencing directly, closely, and like parent to child.
Certainly the founding father of the modern Olympics, Pierre de Coubertin, believed the sport to be a key discipline of the Games.
He's definitely not just seen as a member of the large Olympic family and the refounder of the modern event, but he's also part of the fencing family, and we can therefore be proud of Pierre de Coubertin.
Despite fencing's solid Olympic roots, it has never been afraid to adapt as a sport and keep modern and relevant. Electrified scoring back in 1956 certainly achieved that, although not at the expense of the artistry on display.
For the first time in Olympic history, electronic tip foils were used. A double wire...
Especially with the electric fencing, if the box shows the light goes on, there's no argument. You won. You hit him.
Aside from heading technological advance at the Olympics, fencing has been at the forefront of the march towards sexual equality. Women first began competing in Olympic fencing way back in 1924, and full gender parity has now been achieved.
It's very, very important because it plays a significant role when it comes to the International Olympic Committee assessing different types of sports and establishing gender equality. And it was an important step that enabled fencing to make the transition into the modern era.
Important too has been wheelchair fencing's place at the Paralympics. Again and ever present at the Games, the sport has proved increasingly popular and has made a positive impact in helping to alter the public's perceptions of what it means to be disabled. The relationship between the Olympics and fencing has been mutually beneficial. Some of the Games' greatest memories have sprung from the piste, including one of the finest comebacks ever witnessed in Olympic sport. At the Beijing Olympics in 2008, the Ukraine had trailed China throughout the women's team sabre final until Olga Karlan won 9 of the last 13 points to seal victory by a single point. A truly remarkable turnaround, made even sweeter having been performed upon the Olympic stage.
For fencing and for myself, the Olympics is something magnificent. It's a feast for all sports people. Participating there is already a victory. It's very difficult to fence at your best at the Olympics. It's the strongest who win there. The strongest both from the mental and physical point of view. It's the ultimate. Whoever withstands wins.
And with London 2012 witnessing medal winners from 13 different nations, including Africa and Egypt's silver with Ali Eldin Abu El Qassem, and South America and Venezuela's gold with Ruben Limardo, the Olympics is now driving fencing's global growth.
At the moment, there are about 120, 125 countries that fence. Fencing, well, it's romantic, it's beautiful. By the way, the finals of the Olympic Games are sold out. The rooms are full of enthusiastic people. Every country is fencing.
Everyone in Egypt was with me. We had the same dream. And for fencing in Africa, I want this to be a start. I want to be at the forefront, not only for Africa, but also for other countries who aren't traditional fencing nations.
Because the London Olympics was such a success, this level of fencing has generated a lot of interest from spectators. Now what we need to do is spread this downwards to the World Championships, which are yearly, to the Continental Championships and National Championships. Then we will be able to say that our target has been achieved.
In 2013, its centenary year, the FIE can take great pride in the current strength and growth of the sport. Fencing also boasts a glorious history with intriguing tales and honorable traditions which will never be forgotten. But the FIE is determined never to rest upon its laurels and will provide prudent leadership for the sport it loves as it looks towards the future. En Garde.
Fencing, it is like life.
You have to have all those physical elements that make you a good athlete, such as, speed, balance, agility, but you also have the mind game.
In moments when everything feels wrong, sport can lift you up, and it shows you that you can stand up.
I hope that in the future even more people appreciate the beauty of fencing.
For fencing, a great deal depends on how the sport can modernise and appeal to the next generation.
The main thing that we have to do is being a much more inclusive sport and a much more visible sport.
This is our target number one. Be relevant.